Hello, welcome all. This is Narendra. I'm a physiotherapist. This is my second lecture on vestibular system hypofunction. Today I will be speaking about VOR reflex and pathway. Before I start speaking about VOR reflex, I would like to recap what was discussed last time. It was the sensory integration of the balance system. That's very important to have a better understanding. Yeah. So we discussed about peripheral input receptors, we discuss about central processing units, we discuss about output control, and we discuss about manifestations. So I'll just recap one by one again. So at the periphery we have got four various receptors, okay, which provides information about our balance to the central processing unit. So number one is we have got vestibular apparatuses. Vestibular apparatuses, there are two types of vestibular apparatuses we're talking about here. They are situated in the deep inner ear, okay, called vestibular system. So they are semicircular canals, and then we have got otolith organs. Semicircular canals, their main function is to provide information to our central processing units about the head angular rotations, right? And then the otolith organs, they provide information to our central processing unit about the gravitational vertical, okay, is my body upside down or downside up, or also they provide information about the translatory movements, the walking forward or moving backward. Yeah. So their main function is number one, angular rotation or acceleration, translation, acceleration, and body vertical or gravitational orientation. Okay. So these are the main three functions of these three apparatuses. Yeah. So these are the receptors, hair cells. So deflection of these hair cells provides input to your central processing unit via the 8th cranial nerve. That head is moved whichever direction they decide. Then we have got eyes. So vision is important. So we have got two receptors here, rods and cones. Their main function is clarity of what has been seen. Yeah, clarity of what has been seen. And number two is the depth perception. Okay, and then we have got proprioceptors. As you all know, as a physiotherapist, these are the receptors for your joint position sense. So they are present in majority of the joint cavities. So they provide information about joint position sense. Yeah. And then we have got cutaneous receptors. Present on your sole of the foot. They are abundant in number. Okay. So their main function is the modulation of constant, persistent pressure and touch input. So as we stand up from sitting, our sole of the foot, where we have maximum cutaneous receptors, their main aim is to provide feedback to our central nervous system about the constant pressure, and then the feeling of the soft and groove touch. Yeah. So these are the receptors. They are your Markov's discs and your Penicean corpuscles. So you can read more about these cutaneous receptors. So they communicate from the periphery to your central nervous system via various pathways. Yeah. So vestibular system, that communicates with your cerebellum, midbrain, cranial nerves, nuclei, spinal cord, and your cerebrum. So these are the big bosses present in your central nervous system. They receive the information about what has been sent through afferent pathways to your central nervous system. So cerebellum, as you know, cerebellum is a big boss. Cerebellum need to know what has been sent and what has been feed forward and feedback and feed forward mechanism. So this is a big center for feedback, what has been received from the periphery, and this is the big center for what has been passed through the efferent pathways. So efferent and afferent pathways. This is what cerebellum does. So it has got job to modulate, to fine tune all the information, sensory, afferent, efferent, okay, for a quality motor output. Yeah. So then we have got midbrain. Midbrain is the relay center of the vestibular receptor pathways. And then we have cranial nerves. Cranial nerves are important for your extraocular muscles. And then your spinal cord, that's again both efferent from brain to your spine, and then spine to brain, those kind of pathways, afferent and efferent pathways, sensory and motor pathways. And then we have got cerebrum, that's again that perceives information from the periphery, and then it also provides information to the periphery. So their health is important. So vestibular system communicates with midbrain, cerebellum, cranial nerves, and spinal cord via VOR reflex and VSR reflex, vestibulo-ocular reflex and vestibulospinal reflex. Yeah. And then we have got vision connects with your cerebrum, yeah, and also to your midbrain and cranial nerves in cerebellum via again various pathways, but mainly is your optic nerve pathway. What has been discussed here about the clarity of what has been seen and depth perception and environmental orientation, I forgot to inform you. And then we have got proprioception and cutaneous receptors. They provide information to your central processing unit via dorsal, spinal, thalamic tract, and various spinal, cerebellar pathway. Yeah. So this is how the communication happens from the periphery to your central processing unit. Once all been inputted to your central processing unit, we have a quality motor output. Yeah. And quality oculomotor control. So postural control and oculomotor control. These are the two inputs, these are the two output control mechanisms are. So the health of peripheral receptors, health of central processing unit is manifested into a quality postural control and a quality oculomotor control. Yeah. So for example, if these receptors, one of them is not working properly, the information received by the central processing unit will be faulty. So the information is not accurate, and that will manifest into, we will have some sort of dizziness, disequilibrium, gait changes, could be fall or at risk of falling. So these are a few manifestations if one of this system is not functioning. Yeah. So say about your vestibular system is not providing accurate information about your head rotation and then the visual compensation. So what will happen? The information received by the cerebellum and then by the midbrain is faulty. So we will have a component of dizziness, disequilibrium, gait changes. Either we are at risk of falls or we have already fallen. Yeah. So then we have got, if information is about the clarity of the vision, information about the depth perception is not sent to your central nervous system via optic nerve pathway, then also we will have some sort of these manifestations. If you have a faulty proprioception system, like your postural sway mechanisms, then also the information will not be received as accurate as it's required. We will have manifestations as a disequilibrium, gait changes, or either we are at risk of falls or we have fallen already. And then cutaneous receptors, that's very, very important. If the information from the sole of the foot is not accurate about constant pressure, then also we will have some form of unsteadiness, disequilibrium, gait changes, or falls risk. So the health of these receptors is paramount, and then the health of the input units is paramount, and then what we have got as a normal postural control and normal oculomotor control. This all happens in a subconscious manner. We don't even know that this has happened because it is a natural mechanism of our system. So say about if one of these functions are not, so faulty information, and then we have got manifestations of this. So now, one by one, we need to provide information in my next series of lectures. Number one is the VOR reflex. Yeah. So this is the reflex which I'm going to discuss with you today. Yeah. So then we will discuss one by one in my next series of lectures. But end product of this is falls prevention. Yeah. Disequilibrium. So this is what I just want to teach you, but to have a better understanding of this entire vestibular hyperfunction and sensory integration of balance, make sure you have got accurate picture of all these receptors, their health, how to test them, accurate picture of central processing unit, their health, how to test them, and then output control. What happens at the output control? What happens if there is a problem at the output control, which could be your weakness, that's your strength profile. Range of motion deficit. Okay. And then gait changes. Disease specific. So these are this oculomotor deficit. So extraocular muscle strength, deficit. So my purpose is to say is fault can happen here, fault can happen here, yeah, fault can happen here, and this where our fault is, it will be manifested into dizziness, disequilibrium, gait changes, falls, or risk of falls. But we need to identify where the fault is, whether that is at the peripheral level, okay, at the receptors level, or it is at the receiving level or the central processing unit level, or fault is at the output level, and then identify some sort of accurate therapeutic clinical diagnosis for an appropriate treatment plan. Okay, sometimes what happens, I usually get referrals from an ENT consultant. I used to get, and I still get that. There's a problem at every level. So there is a problem with the degenerative changes already happened in the hair cells. Yeah. So the information about the steadiness of the image is not accurate. There is a problem in the visual side. There is a problem at the proprioceptor level. There is a problem at the cutaneous receptor level. So there is a problem everywhere. And then there is a problem at the processing unit level. And there is some weakness at the output level. There is a range of motion deficit. Yeah. And this is what it is called. I'll write here. So this is you may receive this referral, those who work with vestibular hyperfunction, multiple level vestibulopathy. Okay, this name means there is a problem at every level. Okay, so what to do in this situation? You need to prioritize what is more important. Yeah. So sometimes it is difficult sometimes to make an accurate decision, but yeah, this is what you see. A majority of elderly population that they have got multiple level hyperfunction. Yeah. So now I'm going with the VOR reflex. I hope this makes sense to you all. Yeah. Okay, so today's main topic is VOR reflex. So before I start speaking about VOR, I want to discuss with you what I'm going to cover in this. So I'm going to cover what is the purpose of VOR, pathways, clinical significance, yeah, and then the symptoms. They are the acute and the chronic or the residual. So that's what I'm going to discuss. These four main. I'm going to discuss some examples as well, like how to make a better understanding. Example, yeah. So when I speak about VOR, you need to understand what is this reflex. The entire purpose of this whole reflex is that when head is moved into a direction, right or left, right. So because of this reflex, there is a compensatory eye movement opposite to the head is moved, and that compensatory eye movement is responsible for the steady, accurate image of the seen world. Okay, so the whole purpose of this reflex is to maintain the image of the seen world steadily on your fovea centralis when head is moved whichever direction, right or left. Yeah. So when I'm moving my head right and left, I am seeing this image of the seen world accurately, which is falling on my center of my eyes. Okay, so that's the whole purpose. So the image of the seen world. So let me start again. So the VOR reflex main function is, or its main purpose is to keep the image of the seen world steadily on your center of your eyes, which is called fovea centralis, when head is moved to a direction by compensatory movement to the opposite direction of the head moved. Okay, so that's the whole purpose of this VOR. So let me draw some diagram as well here now. So now I'm just going with pathway. So these are your two semicircular canals. So I'm just giving you one example of the head angular rotation. So this is your endolymph. The fluid travels in these semicircular canals. There are three in nature here: the horizontal, anterior, and posterior. And this is crista ampullaris, where we have got receptors, hair cells. Yeah. So now, for example, head is moved to the right. So my head is moved to the right. So you can see the compensatory eye movements to the opposite direction to the head is moved. Yeah? So now the activation of these hair cells signals are traveled from these vestibular apparatuses to your midbrain via eighth cranial nerve. Okay. Sorry. So let me start again. So today's my topic is VOR reflex. When I say about VOR reflex, the purpose of VOR reflex is to maintain the picture of the seen world steadily on the center of your eyes when head is moved into a direction, which could be right and to the left. So when my head is moved to the right, you can see I've got compensatory eye movement opposite to the direction head is moved, and that is to maintain, to keep the picture of the seen world steadily on your eyes. That's the whole purpose of this reflex. Okay, so is that making it clear? Yeah. So now I just want to draw the VOR reflex pathway for a better understanding. So I will use blue as a inhibitory pathway. And red as an excitatory pathway. Yeah. Okay, so this is your semicircular canal, right? And this is your semicircular canal to the left. These are the hair cells. And this is your endolymph. These are your hair cells again here. And this area is called crista ampullaris. Basically ampulla, that depression is called ampulla, and then the collection of these hair cells is called crista ampullaris. So now head is moved to right direction. When head is moved to the right, the deflection of these hair cells will cause generation of action potential, and that action potential is traveled via eighth cranial nerve okay, eighth cranial nerve, which is also called as vestibulocochlear nerve. Now, from the eighth cranial nerve, the first order neuron terminates in your midbrain. Yeah. In the midbrain, we have got vestibular nuclei. There are 4 vestibular nuclei, and their action is few sense fiber to your optic, your extraocular muscles, and few sense fibers to your vestibulospinal, the anti-gravity muscles of your lower limb here. So this is your vestibular nuclei in your midbrain. So this whole situation is your midbrain. Okay, so now from here, the second order, so this is your first order neuron. second order neuron from here, second order neuron from vestibular nuclei, the impulse cross over to the opposite side of the brain and terminates at the sixth nerve nuclei. Yeah, so that is your abducent nuclei. And this is the inhibitory pathway which travels opposite side, yeah, and then inhibit sixth nerve nuclei. Okay, and they activate these are your extraocular muscles. So as I say, red I'll keep as a excitatory and blue as inhibitory. Okay. Okay. So the second order neuron from your vestibular nuclei to your opposite side sixth nerve, which is your abducent nerve. Now third order neuron travels from sixth nerve nuclei to the same side, to the opposite side, sorry, not same side, opposite side, abducent nerve. Okay, your lateral rectus. And then the opposite side, the same side, inhibition of your lateral rectus. Okay, now not only that, there is another pathway which further cross over to the opposite side again, yeah, called third nerve nuclei, which is your oculomotor nerve. Yeah, so I will just delete that. No, it should be blue. Okay, so let me explain this again. I'll start again. So today's topic is VOR reflex, which is called vestibulo-ocular reflex as well. This is one of the main reflex of the vestibular system, out of one more reflex, which is the vestibulospinal reflex. So VOR reflex is the, so when I'm saying I'll be covering VOR reflex, I'll be covering these 5 topics within this VOR reflex. Number 1 is purpose of the VOR reflex, pathway, what is the pathway, and then the clinical significance, what happens when the hyperfunction of this VOR reflex, what are the symptoms, yeah, whether they are acute or chronic, like poorly compensated symptoms, and then I'll give you one example as well. So let's start with some sort of some drawing of the pathway. Just bear with me because it is a little bit time consuming when you draw pathway. Yeah. But I'll try to explain that what happens when your head is moved to a direction. Say, for example, when head is moved to the right, and then you have got compensatory eyes moved to the opposite side. So before I draw a pathway, I just want to say what is the purpose of this VOR reflex. The purpose of this VOR reflex is just to maintain the picture, the steady picture, just to maintain the picture of the scene world steadily on your fovea centralis, which is the center part of your eyes. Okay, when head is moved to a direction with a compensatory movement of your eyes